Morning. My name is Antonio Maruenda. I was always related to the sector of production, fruit and vegetable production in the area of Águilas, Pulpí, the area in northeast of Andalusia and Murcia, in a privileged area where the lack of water is evident. Lately, the availability of water improved a lot with the setup of desalination plants, and it is one of the main problems for the development of crops in our area. So from the point of view of the producer, I've been told to put forward what is our starting point as compared to the demands of large distribution chains. So the general context we find is that big distributors, and there are some examples here, are usually large corporations, large companies, which place a series of conditions for them to accept you as a supplier. And such large distributors are very sensitive in terms of their public image before society. So they set up a series of quality rules if you want to supply them with products. In general terms, all of us have got to fulfill the global gap, which is a norm for good practices, but in other countries such as Germany, you've also got to fulfill the QS standard. There's a kind of split between the standard norm at the European level and then the specific German rule, the QS, and then the specific rules for each of the supermarkets. All this is takes into account food safety in the end. So responsible use of water and fertilizers is one of the main items within quality assurance rules, and these, apart from having an economic impact, also in terms of the improvement of productivity, is a subject having to do with social responsibility in terms, of course, of the public image. So the use of water and fertilizers should be improved, not just to improve production results, but also because of the demands put in place by quality regulations, and all these aspects should be taken into account. The quality rules in place so far, for them, global gap is the general quality regulation, and QS would be the quality regulation for German supermarkets. Apart from that, there are other specific rules such as Leaf for Waitrose, or Nature for Tesco, or Field to Four for Marks and Spencer's. And this means that these supermarkets demand something more, usually having to do with environmental aspects or social issues. QS in this case is very much concerned with the subject of agrochemical products, but also they have some modalities which highlight the care in the use of nitrates, and these specific regulations also highlight this aspect, especially environmental aspects having to do with the use of water and fertilizers. They won't enter too much into the efficient use of them. And demands are increased with time, because as we climb up the ladder, there are more demands. For example, if we've reached this level, next year we will be requesting from you to fulfill these, and in the end we will end up and subject to an intense control on the use of water and fertilizers. Right. The general index of the global gap regulation has got two items. One of them talking about fertilizers and fertilization, another one on water management, and there's even guidelines for responsible management of water at the plot. It's an important aspect in the rule. Our global gap introduction involves taking into account that water is a scarce asset, and that water should be used with technical equipment which would provide for an efficient use. So we've got to get to know the needs and use the water according to the needs, and should count on the adequate equipment for doing an appropriate irrigation. We control the sources of water, the facilities for storage, especially microbiological quality and chemical quality. So risks are control, pollution control is exerted. We've got to know the needs of crops depending on the region. We must count on a plan and on a series of parameters that would help us regulate the dosage. So the objective would be to do an efficient use of water in the plot. And these would be the arguments to place before the auditors. Also, it would be compulsory to count on irrigation follow-up reports, and the follow-up done by auditors is very much focused on how we have done the planning. If the engineer is qualified to do the calculation and do the follow-up on the use of water, but it won't enter too much into whether the facilities, the greenhouses or the farms are automated in terms of irrigation, or how irrigation is controlled. So in practical terms, this is left at a superficial level. It would seem that specialists would do it technically, but not that level of precision in terms of irrigation management is requested. In terms of fertilization, This would be the text. The process involves taking into account the needs of the crops. Crops should have nutrients, and sometimes there's a need to apply fertilizers, and they should be applied correctly. So adequate procedures are followed in order to prevent pollution and losses from happening. These would be one of the main aspects.
Hay que tener unas recomendaciones, un cálculo sobre lo que vamos a aplicar, basado en las necesidades y en el suelo. Hay que tener registros de aplicación.
We've got to have application records. We've got to take very much care of storage in order to prevent pollution problems from happening. And there's no regulation, not yet, a regulation on the use of organic fertilizers, also in terms of taking into account the food safety issue and pollution. So the conclusions, for you to have them as a base for this discussion, the implementation of these rules would mean an improvement. From the point of view of the producer, we believe these rules mean an improvement in general terms of the use of water and fertilizers in the sector. So even if there are priorities with regards to food safety and the prevention of pollution, there's no priority established on the specific equipment used. But the improvement of fertigation equipment is needed. Also, automation improves efficiency. This has been tested and proven, and I know that in the near future these items will be looked into in more strict terms. The use of measurement devices for water and fertilizers, which are not that widespread, would also help in the planning, follow-up, recording, and the use of devices measuring soil moisture content, and which would improve efficiency. Everything is aimed towards improving the efficiency of water and fertilizers. In this case, strategies of large distributors in order to improve their image and also that of the producers are in line and are consistent with each other. So this would be more or less the summary, a brief summary of our point of view with regards the producers, the demands placed on the producers, and last, being able to count on a reliable registry of how it's been managed would be the demonstration on how responsible use of water